Welcome back, guys. And this week we're presenting a huge card going down in Yas Island, Abu Dhabi, and that's Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski 2. And this fight is presented by Notorious Pulls Radio, and I'm your host, Mitch. Now let's get into the details. October 21st. Main event is dropping off at 2 p.m. Obviously, this card has had so much controversy behind it when both the main event and the co-main event were both in jeopardy at one point. Thankfully, Dana White and the matchmakers have been able to not only salvage the card, but in my opinion, they've made the card even better. Why do I say better? Obviously, I wanted to see the rematch of Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira, but I truly believe that the better fight to watch is Volkanovski versus Makhachev 2, because with a lot of questions that were unanswered from last fight, even though the way I saw that last fight going down was Islam did edge out Volkanovski. But the thing is, we've never seen Islam that vulnerable in the octagon. I mean, since he lost in one of his early stage careers in the UFC. Obviously, Volkanovski, featherweight champ, king, went back recently, washed up Yair Rodriguez, was supposed to have a fight with Ilya Topuria. Then on 10 days' notice, UFC calls him, said, hey, yo, scratch that fight with Topuria. You got to fight Islam again. No problem. Stepped up to the plate. Saved the fucking card. I mean, Volk is that dude. On that one phone call, he's going to pull up, and he wanted this fight more than anything. Obviously, dreams come true, gets to run it back and potentially make history that night. How do I see this fight going? I mean, Islam is just a naturally bigger guy. There was a lot of rumors saying that he might not even make weight for this fight. I mean, I highly doubt that's going to happen. I mean, Islam is a true professional, has always made weight his entire career, and I believe Saturday night will be no less. He will get on the scale, he will be 155 even, and the card will go on. Volkanovski, do I see him having better improvement this fight? Yes. Do I see him fully prepared? Tough to say, but he's the champ. He's always ready. He's always in the gym. This man is one of the most active champions in UFC history. Nonetheless, I do believe that Islam is not going to be able to finish Volkanovski, but when it's going to come to, he's going to have to edge him out by points. Once again, how he did his last fight. I mean, Volk has just a crazy gas tank. But the thing is, for Volk to have any success, this fight cannot go to the distance. He needs to find a way to dismantle Makhachev in the octagon. I don't know how. I mean, Makhachev is a monster. He is huge. But the fight's going to be very entertaining nonetheless. Another co-main event that was in major jeopardy, and that is Khamzat Chimaev's essentially middleweight entrance. He was finally going to fight a real opponent at middleweight and Paulo Costa. Obviously, Paulo Costa, another fight that had to get scrapped due to a staph infection of his elbow, which was really disgusting. And those can be really wicked and keep you out for a very long time if they're not handled correctly. But nonetheless, UFC, again, making crazy power moves. Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian nightmare, steps up to fight Khamzat. And I mean, that is really the fight to make. I mean, these guys wanted to fight each other technically at welterweight. Khamzat always said that he wanted to eat and smash everybody in that division. Obviously, Usman was the champion for a good amount of time in the welterweight division before coming off two back-to-back losses to the current champion, Leon Edwards. Nonetheless, Usman still got it. I believe this fight coming up at a higher weight class is a little bit healthier for both men. Usman, obviously, tremendous wrestler. My only curiosity is, will Khamzat be ragdolling Kamaru Usman? I mean, yes, he's a fantastic wrestler, and we saw what he did to his prior opponents, and that's in Kevin Holland. But that fight that he had with Gilbert Burns, it showed that Chimaev is human. Chimaev's chin can get rocked, and he can get put to sleep. The only thing that Usman would have to do that night is to come out and just bring that same Usman like he fought Masvidal, that crisp boxing that he has, and that relentless pressure that he has. I mean, he is a phenomenal wrestler. I mean, this matchup to me is a million times better. And for that reason, I'm going to be rocking with Usman. I know he's going to be the underdog. I know there's a shitload of hype going behind Chimaev, but I'm going to have to rock with the former welterweight champ. I just truly believe he is going to make a big statement that night. He took this fight. He watched a lot of video on Chimaev. He knows what to expect. He understands. He's not worried about that grappling that Chimaev has to offer. He is an elite grappler himself. So I am super excited for this middleweight matchup. And this could have been easily a main event. And to stack it on to the card, this is going to be a spectacular night. The next match that I want to bring up is Magomedov Ankalaev. And these are some big boys at light heavyweight versus Johnny Walker. And the messed up thing is Ankalaev had a really, really tough draw his last fight against Blachowicz. I mean, he was really upset. He believed that it was his chance to fight for the championship belt. They hit him with a draw. There was a lot of shit. He really didn't take that fight well. And we didn't know when we were going to see him again. Him getting a fight with Walker, I believe, is kind of like a in-between fight. Johnny Walker, don't get me wrong, is a super dangerous opponent. I just think Ankalaev is much more complete. I believe he's the better grappler. He's more composed, less emotional. Johnny Walker kind of, his fights, they feed off speed. You know, he has this like unorthodox way of fighting. He's a little wild in the ring, like reminds me a little bit of like Michel Pereira. I mean, just a lot of personality. Crazy, crazy striker. Huge guy, but he does have a lot of holes in his game. And obviously, you saw that fight with Jamal Hill. He got his lights put out. So where do I see this fight going? I see Ankalaev putting the lights out on Johnny Walker. I just believe Ankalaev is the sharper, better fighter. I mean, he literally only has one blemish on his record, and that was his UFC debut to Paul Craig. Obviously, Johnny Walker just recently TK'd Paul Craig. So the matchmakers figured this would be a nice little fight for both of them. Walker himself is on a 3-fight win streak, kind of rejuvenate his career. Possibly momentum can go in his favor. I just believe Ankalaev is the much better overall fighter in every single department of mixed martial arts. And that's why I'm going to have to be rocking with the Dagestani that night. For the next matchup I want to introduce, it's another big matchup with middleweights. And you have Ikram Aliskerov versus Warley Alves. And this fight is really good. I like Ikram. I mean, his Dana White Contender Series debut was beautiful. Had a very nice Kimura finish. He stepped up into a huge fight against Phil Hawes, and I mean, this kid delivered, knocking out a guy like Phil Hawes, who's as durable as him and has a strong chin and comes from a fantastic gym training under Henry Hooft. I mean, he brought in the fire, the thunder, the lightning that night. I feel like he could have had a much better opponent, but like I said, this kid is a huge risk for anyone in his division, and I'm just happy that we're going to get to showcase his talent that night in Abu Dhabi, and he's going against Warley Alves. Warley Alves is a very journeyman type of guy, record 14-6. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. This is going to be his 3rd loss in a row. A kid like this is an absolute murderer. He's exactly what the middleweight division needs right now. We need that energy, that new blood to kind of excite all the fans and not keep having to rotate essentially the same guys over and over and over again. It's really nice to see these new up-and-coming contenders really making wave and, fighting each other and creating new fights and shifting up the division, just from my personal take. The opening match on this main event is against Saeed Nurmagomedov versus Muin Gafurov. And I like this fight because both guys are coming off losses. I mean, Saeed Nurmagomedov is coming off a super tough loss to Jonathan Martinez, who's been on an absolute tear. So Jonathan Martinez is well on his way to getting his title shot very soon, and Said Nurmagomedov needs to be fighting for his position. So Nurmagomedov coming off a loss. Obviously, Gafurov, tough fighter. I mean, lost in his Dana White Contender Series debut, put up 2 great wins in an outside division, and came back and had another loss. I mean, from what I see in his record, anytime he's faced UFC caliber guys or guys who've been in the UFC, he has not been able to deliver. And I believe a guy like Nurmagomedov, he's crazy skilled, insane grappling, very tricky, super long for the bantamweight division. I do believe Nurmagomedov is going to eat up Muin, and this is going to be a nice, easy win for the night. Guys, remember, we have one of the biggest cards coming up on November 11th in Madison Square Garden, and our own Nazim, the Black Wolf Sadakov, is going to be showing out at lightweight. And this kid is not to be missed. One of the hottest prospects in the UFC right now. Guys, you cannot miss it. Remember, if you want to show us support and you continue to want to watch our show, please, very simple. Leave a like, follow, and subscribe on all social media platforms. Thank you again. Your host, Mitch. We'll see you soon.